for the Vikings, for the alpha, we're doing 3 basic profiles that kind of reflect the 3 like major areas of our combat. And we really, what we really want from this alpha is a lot of feedback on how the combat's working, and how the characters like it, and how the players like it, and get all that feedback so we can tune it properly and have this great core system. So we have Thane, who's the kind of all-around guy. He has the shield with the really easy defense system, and he has a sword for great cutting edge. So he has a lot of margin for error for his attacks. He also has some skills down here, and these skills right now are, you can see there's a locked. So when the game releases, we'll actually have custom profiles, but and we'll start off with locked ones for the new players, so that they don't have to think about those choices. And once they've learned the game, then they can make these better choices. But we'll have like these pop-ups that kind of explain what the skills do. And so these skills, basically, you'll have 1 locked for the medium archetype, and then you'll have 3 customizable ones. And you'll be able to pick a shield, but it depends on what your primary weapon is. So if you picked like a 2-handed weapon or a ranged weapon like a bow, you're not going to be able to equip a shield at the same time. And then secondary weapons could be a one-handed axe, or he can pick a throwing weapon, which could be a knife or an axe. And then we'll also have a javelin, which is a big spear, basically. I want you to be an aggressive opponent. You hit the left mouse button, and then you drag in a direction to initiate the swing, and then it's back to control of your mouse. If somebody's doing an overhead attack with their sword or axe, or if somebody's shooting at you with arrows from a higher position, you would want to move your shield up there to protect better, and low down for sweeping attacks as well. So you press F and you'll perform a special move. It's dependent on what weapon you're actually using. So different weapons are going to give you different kind of special attacks. And though they're easy to do by you just hit the F button, so it's a 1-button move, it also leaves you very exposed. And it also it uses up a decent chunk of your stamina. And it does take precision to hit, so you do have to be accurate with your attack. So we've got a dodge system, and you use Alt and then a direction, and you'll actually dodge a specific direction from your opponent. And then, to make things even more interesting, we added, if you press Alt and your left mouse button, you'll actually do a swing attack, and you'll follow up with an attack. It just adds a lot more footwork to the combat, and making it about, more about that, and not only about defensive blocks and parries. Then we have the Huskarl. So he's like our heavy archetype, so he's the big guy, so he's doing the 2-handed axe right now. So he's going to have more mail protection, so he'll have a little bit more armor protection, but he's a little bit slower. His swings aren't as fast, and it takes a little bit more time to power up. Then we have the Herdman. So he's basically our scout type character, ranged, all cloth armor, no mail armor at all. And then he has a 1-handed axe as his secondary, and he has the bow as his primary. I can see your face right now, and I can actually shoot through there.
Wow.
And get a headshot. I mean, that's the level of precision that we put in the game. So there's lots of places like this in all of our maps. We use the stamina system to kind of affect how many arrows they had. It's just not fun when you're an archer. I mean, we want to encourage them to kind of not be close to combat typically, unless they picked like a more aggressive archer type of class. But most of the time, we really want them to be using what their specialty is, and also going after other archers. So we've added a sprint system. You have to sheath your weapon to run, but if you run as well, you can tackle your opponent. And when they fall, it gives you the advantage, and I missed, of course. But if I would have hit that, I get the advantage of killing you, and so I get that upper hand because I used a tactic and a strategy against somebody who was running.
The sprinting actually doesn't affect your stamina at all?
No. I mean, and that's something we want feedback on. Like, does it feel too much? But I mean, since you can't attack with it, it really is just a way to travel, and it's not a method that you can use to kind of take advantage of and, use the momentum system to kind of amplify the power of your shot. So when you're actually chasing somebody, you'll always catch up to your opponent. So basically we put that in there because it kind of fit the time. You're never supposed to run. You're supposed to stay with your teammates. You know, you can also close the distance with a throwing weapon. Now they're not as effective obviously as a bow, but they offer a cool option to kind of soften up your opponent and close that distance. We can also break your enemy's shield. So yeah, so I did a really power attack. I basically shattered your shield, but that leaves you vulnerable, so then you have to rely on parrying. In that situation, you would have wanted to go for a left-handed swing, and that's where the value of the direction really comes into play, is more when there's more stuff going on around you, and sometimes you even try to use that against other people. You're hoping that they'll go for the wrong swing, and then that'll block it, and then you'll come in with the swing and do that.
Yeah. Do you have decapitations in this?
Yes.
Yeah.
A reward for players when you get that. So that means, I mean, you have to hit in the gap, you have to hit flesh in their neck to get that to happen. So it's very accurate. So it really plays into making, leaning towards being a bit more believable and realistic. So, you're not going to get hit in the chest and your head pop off. So these are small levels. They're specifically meant for the pitched arena game mode, which puts one life, two players against 8 versus 8, and really kind of shines in that game mode. But we also have larger maps that we'll be releasing, that are themed in a kind of in a setting for 8th, 9th century England, so Britannia inspired maps. So we'll have like a level with a cliff, and the players will like kind of push their way up from the cliff where the Vikings landed and fight against the Saxons up to another monastery. And it's on a cliffside, so it feels very, it feels very much like what you would expect from a Viking first invasion. We made a Viking town of York. So that's another one of our bigger levels where the Saxons are attacking now instead of the Vikings. So reverse the roles. So on the large maps we can support up to 64 players. And on the smaller maps, we're not sure what the amount is that before the server might start like chugging and want to kill itself. Yeah. But what we'll probably do is the official servers will stay at a consistent player count that we feel is really a healthy number, and we'll let players who rent and set up their own servers, we'll let them kind of max out the performance and see, if they want a 32-player, arena map size, then hey, go for it. The more powerful your attack, the louder your scream. And we're gonna add taunts as well. So we'll have a lot of different taunts. We're also looking at other mechanisms, to kind of try and improve the combat, but some of that will probably be post-launch, so I don't want to make any promises. And what we want to do is for the enemies, you'll always hear them speaking in Icelandic for the Vikings, which is the closest to Old Norse language. Sure. So we're hiring some Icelandic voice actors to do that for us. And then we're looking at trying to find some Old English speakers so that we can have the Saxons speaking in Old English when you're a Viking, but when you're a Viking, you'll hear English so that you kind of hear what's going on better. Yeah, so then, just to bring the world to life a bit more and just add that little extra layer of cool. Now you're knocked down, so now I got to finish you off.